It all began on a windless afternoon when the house was too quiet and the dogs were too still. Maxi had been sorting through an old cupboard, which was dangerous activity because cupboards have a way of pretending to contain towels and then producing entire chapters of your past. There were faded ribbons, empty glass bottles, 3 notebooks that had once seemed urgent and now looked faintly embarrassed. At the very back, beneath a stack of old fabric, Maxi found a wooden box. It was small, square, and far heavier than it should have been. On the lid, someone had carved a heart. It wasn't a perfect heart, not the neat kind printed on cards. This one was uneven, slightly wild, and split down the middle by a fine golden line. Lucy sniffed the box immediately, and Psycho opened one eye from his place near the door. Lucy placed one paw on Maxi's foot, which was her way of saying, "Open it, woman." The latch clicked by itself. "This is not usually a good sign," Maxi muttered. Inside lay a small wooden puppet. It was no bigger than a child, but not quite a toy. His limbs were jointed, his face was gently carved, his kind eyes and a mouth shaped as if it had forgotten how to speak. In the center of his chest was a small wooden heart. It was dull, not dead, just dimmed. Maxi touched one of the strings, and the room started to tremble. A curtain of red velvet unfolded from the ceiling, falling between the shelves and the window. The floorboards stretched into polished stage planks. A row of golden footlights blinked awake. Then a sign appeared above the curtain. The Theatre of Approved Selves. Psycho sighed deeply, as though he had always suspected the cupboard was hiding theatre equipment. Gypsy stepped closer to Maxi, and Lucy wagged her tail. The puppet's eyes opened, and from somewhere above them, a tiny voice called, "Places, everyone. Try to look convincing." The curtain lifted, and Maxi found herself standing on a stage beneath a bright white spotlight. The dog stood beside her, blinking at rows and rows of empty seats. Except the seats were not empty. They were filled with masks, thousands of them. Smiling masks, serious masks, clever masks, kind ones, pretty ones, impressive ones, spiritual ones, sensible ones, polite ones, masks with painted tears, masks with painted laughter, masks with eyes that looked open but saw nothing. Above the stage hung hundreds of golden strings, disappearing into the darkness overhead. A tiny bush cricket in a green waistcoat hopped onto a music stand. He carried a cane made from a matchstick and wore spectacles so small they seemed more like an opinion than an accessory. "Name?" he asked. "Maxi," she said. "Role?" "I don't have one," the cricket gasped. "No role in this economy?" Maxi looked around. "I was sorting out a cupboard." Yes, they all say that at first." "Who are you?" The cricket straightened his waistcoat. "I am not guilt. I am not fear. I am not the voice of your mother, teacher, neighbor, customer, algorithm, audience, or accountant." "That is oddly specific," she said. "I am conscience," he said. "But you may call me Crispin. It is less exhausting." Lucy sniffed him. Crispin froze. "Kindly inform the bear dog that I am not a snack." "She's a Rottweiler," said Maxi. "That does not improve my position." And then a bell rang. From the wings of the stage, people began to enter. At first, Maxi thought they were actors. Then she realized they were ordinary people wearing masks and moving as if invisible strings were pulling them into place. One woman wore a mask that smiled too widely, and a label on it read, "I am always fine." A man wore a polished mask with sharp eyes. It said, "I know everything." A young girl, wearing one painted, with delicate obedience, said, "I never say no." Another person wore a glowing mask that said, "I am very spiritual about everything." The audience of masks began to clap, and the actors bowed, but none of them looked happy. Their mouths smiled, but their eyes did not. Maxi looked up at the strings. "Who is pulling them?" she asked. Crispin tapped his cane against the music stand. "Approval, belonging, fear, habit, survival, shame. The need to be liked, the need to be safe, the need to be seen as good, clever, generous, successful, calm, useful, beautiful and wise, and never inconvenient." "That is a lot of strings," she said. "Humans are very talented," said Crispin. "They can turn almost anything into a leash." The boy stepped onto the stage. His golden strings trailed behind him. The theatre went silent. He looked at Maxi. "Are you here to teach me how to be real?" he asked. Maxi opened her mouth and then closed it again. "I am not sure I know how." Crispin nodded approvingly. "Excellent. A truthful beginning." The wooden boy led them backstage. Behind the curtain was a long hallway lined with mirrors, but the mirrors did not show reflections. Each one showed a version of a person they had learned to perform. Here was the good one, who smiled even when her soul said no. The strong one, who never asked for help. Here was the successful one, who could not rest because rest looked too much like failure. Here was the peaceful one, who swallowed anger and called it wisdom. Here was the helpful one, who gave until there was nothing left and then apologized for being tired. Some of the mirrors felt familiar, too familiar. The wooden boy stopped in front of a mirror covered in fingerprints. "I tried all of them," he said. His voice was small. "I tried being good, then clever, then charming, then quiet, and then useful, then special. Every time someone clapped, another string appeared." Maxi looked at the tangled gold around his wrists. "I thought applause meant I was becoming real." Crispin's wings made a soft sound. "Applause can warm you," he said, "but it cannot tell you who you are." The wooden boy touched his dull heart. "Then what makes me real?" Before Maxi could answer, the hallway shook, and a tall figure stepped from the shadows. He wore a coat stitched from theatre curtains, old promises, and scraps of unfinished truth. His face was covered by a beautiful mask that changed every few seconds. Kind, stern, wise, innocent, powerful, harmless. Whatever face might be most useful. Crispin lowered his voice. "The mask maker," he said. The mask maker bowed. "Welcome, honored guests. I have masks for every occasion. One for being agreeable when you disagree. One for looking brave when you are breaking. One for saying yes with your mouth while your whole body says no." He turned to Maxi. "And for you, I have several." A rack of masks rolled forward. The healer who never tires. The woman who has it all together. The one who must finish everything. The one who does not disappoint. The one who explains herself nicely so no one gets upset. Maxi felt something tighten in her chest. The mask maker lifted a mask edged in gold. "This one is very popular," he said. "It is called I Am Fine." Lucy growled softly. Not loudly, just enough. The mask maker glanced at her and smiled. "Ah, animals," he said, "so inconveniently honest." Psycho stood very still. Gypsy's eyes tracked the strings above them. Maxi looked at the wooden boy, and he was trembling. "How do we leave?" she asked. The mask maker laughed. "My dear, no one leaves the Theatre of Approved Selves. Not really. They only change costumes." Crispin hopped onto Maxi's shoulder and whispered, "That is not true, but truth must be spoken from the inside." Maxi took a breath, and the stage lights dimmed. Somewhere a drum rolled. The next performance was beginning. Maxi, the dogs, the wooden boy, and Crispin were pushed onto the main stage. The mask maker stood above them on a balcony, holding a bundle of golden strings. "Ladies and gentlemen, He called from the audience of masks. "Tonight we present the most beloved performance of all, becoming what they want." And the audience clapped. The first string tugged the wooden boy's arm. He smiled, not his smile, a practiced one. The audience clapped louder. Another string pulled his head into a bow. Another made him dance. Another made him speak. "I am exactly what you asked for," said the wooden boy. The words were smooth, and his heart grew dimmer. Maxi stepped forward. "Stop," she said. The mask maker tilted his head. "That is not in the script." "Good," she replied. A string dropped from the ceiling and looped around Maxi's wrist. It pulled gently. "Be agreeable." Another looped around her shoulder. "Do not make a scene." Another brushed against her throat. "Say it nicely. Make it smaller. Make yourself easier to swallow." Maxi felt the old reflex rise. Smile, soften, explain, make everyone comfortable. Then Psycho walked onto the center of the stage and sat down. The great Malamute did not perform. He did not bow. He did not smile on command. He simply existed, enormous and unbothered, as if the stage had been built around his right to be exactly what he was. The audience stopped clapping. The string around Maxi's wrist loosened. Gypsy moved quietly along the edge of the stage, following the strings upward with her sharp, watchful eyes. Lucy marched to the wooden boy, took one dangling string gently between her teeth, and pulled. The string snapped with a sound like a tiny bell. The wooden boy gasped. His hand moved by itself. For the first time, not by command. Maxi looked at him. "What do you want to say?" He stared at the audience. "I don't know." Crispin lifted his cane. "Honesty." One more string fell away. The wooden boy's heart flickered. The mask maker's smile thinned. "Careful," he said. "If you stop performing, they may stop clapping." The wooden boy looked at the masks in the seats and then at Maxi, then down at his own hands. In a voice no louder than a seed splitting on the ground, he said, "I am tired of being almost real." The theatre trembled. 100 masks cracked. The wooden boy flinched, but he did not take the words back. Maxi felt the strings around her own throat loosen. She said, softly at first, "The truth does not become wrong because someone dislikes hearing it." The stage light flickered. Then she said it again, stronger. "The truth does not become wrong because someone dislikes hearing it." The mask maker stumbled. Across the stage, people in masks began touching their faces. One by one, the painted smiles cracked. Behind them were tired eyes, real eyes, wet eyes, human eyes. From the back of the theatre came the sound of scissors. Snip, snip, snip. An old woman walked down the aisle between the masks. She wore a dress made of midnight blue thread and silver buttons. Around her neck hung a measuring tape that glowed faintly. Her hair was braided with tiny bells, and in her hand she carried a pair of golden scissors. The mask maker recoiled. "You are not permitted here," he said. The old woman smiled. "Truth rarely waits for permission," she said. Crispin bowed so low his spectacles nearly fell off. "The seamstress of true names," he whispered. The seamstress stepped onto the stage and looked at the wooden boy. "Ah," she said, "you have been stitched into other people's expectations." The boy touched his strings. "Can you cut them?" "I can cut what you are ready to release, but I cannot choose truth for you." She turned towards Maxi. "Nor for you." Maxi swallowed. The seamstress held up a mirror, not one of the hallway mirrors. This one was plain and clear. In it, Maxi did not see a role. She saw herself. Tired and brave, tender and stubborn, magical and practical. Not finished, not polished, not always easy, but real. The seamstress asked, "What is one truth You have made too small. The theatre waited. Maxi breathed in and out. Then she said, I do not want a life that only looks acceptable from the outside. I want a life that feels honest from the inside. And a string snapped, not from the wooden boy, from Maxi. It fell at her feet, dull and powerless. The wooden boy looked at her with wonder. The seamstress turned to him. And you? He looked at the audience of masks, and then at the mask maker, and then at his small wooden heart. I do not want to be loved for my performance, he said. I want to be known for my truth. The golden scissors flashed. Snip! One string fell, and then another, and another. The wooden boy stumbled, not because he was weak, but because for the first time no one was holding him up. Maxi reached for him, and the seamstress shook her head gently. Let him find his own balance. The boy placed one foot on the stage and then the other. He wobbled. Lucy leaned closer, ready but not interfering. Psycho watched like a mountain. Gypsy stood alert at the edge of the light. The boy took one step. His heart glowed, not brightly, honestly. The masks in the audience began to fall from their seats. Behind them sat people, real people. Some were frightened, and some were relieved. Some sat there blinking, as if waking from a long performance. The mask maker clutched at his own changing face. Without the masks looking back at him, he seemed smaller, lonelier. For a moment, Maxi felt sorry for him, and the seamstress did too. Even you, she said to him, might put down the faces that are not yours. The mask maker's hands trembled. His mask cracked. Behind it was not a villain, only a man who had forgotten his own face. The theatre started changing. The red velvet curtains softened into roots. The stage floor warmed beneath Maxi's boots. Golden strings fell from the ceiling like rain, and wherever they touched the ground, small green shoots appeared. The wooden boy stood in the center of the stage. His limbs were still wooden, his joints still creaked, his nose did not grow. Nothing about him became suddenly perfect, but his eyes were alive. Am I real now? He asked. The seamstress smiled. Real is not a finish line, it is a practice. Crispin nodded vigorously. A daily inconvenience, and Maxi laughed. The boy looked worried. What if I get it wrong? You will, said the seamstress. That's not comforting, said Maxi. You said that last time, murmured Lucy with her eyes, or at least Maxi was certain she did. The seamstress continued. You will hide sometimes. You will perform sometimes. You will say yes when your soul says no. You will forget your own voice in rooms that reward pretending. But every moment gives you another chance to return. The boy touched his glowing heart. How? The seamstress held up 3 fingers. Ask these things. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it mine? The theatre grew quiet. Not everything true must be thrown like a stone, she said. Truth without kindness becomes cruelty. Kindness without truth becomes performance, and anything that is not yours to carry will eventually become a string. Maxi felt those words land deep inside her. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it mine? The wooden boy repeated them softly. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it mine? With each question, his heart glowed brighter. The stage beneath him split open, not with violence, but with life. Roots rose from the wood and wrapped gently around his feet. Leaves unfolded along his arms. His wooden chest softened into warm heartwood. Still tree, still boy, still becoming. He was not turned into someone else. He became more fully what he had always been. The audience stood up, not clapping this time, but listening. The seamstress turned to Maxi. And you, child of the listening heart, remember this. Your true self is not the loudest version of you. It's not the cleanest. the one that does not need to twist itself into approval, the one that can love without disappearing, the one that can say no without hatred and yes without fear. Maxi looked down at the fallen strings around her boots. They were turning into roots, and she smiled. For the first time, the theatre felt less like a stage and more like a forest. The wooden box appeared again at the edge of the stage. Its lid was open. Inside was not darkness, but Maxi's study. The desk, the books, the old cupboard, the cold tea, the morning light waiting patiently on the floor. "It's time to go," said Crispin. "Already?" asked Maxi. The cricket adjusted his spectacles. "Authenticity does not improve by loitering in symbolic theatres." The wooden boy stepped forward. "What should I do now?" Maxi looked at the seamstress, and the seamstress looked at the boy. The boy looked at his own glowing heart. Then he answered himself. "Tell one true thing, take one real leap and one step, remove one string." Crispin widened one eye dramatically. They grow up so quickly when they stop outsourcing their conscience. Lucy licked the boy's hand and Psycho gave him a solemn nod. Gypsy touched her nose gently to his glowing heart. Maxi climbed back into the wooden box last, and as she did, she heard the seamstress call after her. "Remember, you do not become real by being approved. You become real by living in alignment with your soul." The words followed Maxi like a bell, and the box closed. Maxi woke beside the open cupboard. The house was quiet again. The desk looked ordinary and the shelves were ordinary. The tea was cold, which was less magical and more predictable. The wooden box sat in front of her. Inside it lay the puppet, but he looked different now. His strings were gone. In his chest, the little heart glowed softly, not like a spotlight, more like an ember. Maxi picked up her notebook and turned to a clean page. At the top she wrote, "What is one true thing I can live today?" She looked at the sentence for a long time. Outside, a bird sang without asking whether it sounded impressive. The dogs gathered near her, not because they had been called, but because love does not always need an instruction. Psycho leaned against the doorframe, magnificently himself. Gypsy watched the window, alert to the world as it was. Lucy lay on Maxi's foot, because some truths are simple and non-negotiable. Maxi smiled. She did not need to perform calm to be worthy of peace. She did not need to perform strength to be allowed support. She did not need to perform goodness to live with integrity. She did not need to become more acceptable before she would become more real. She only needed to listen, to speak with care, to choose what was true, what was kind, and what was hers. And when old strings appeared, as they sometimes would, she would notice them, not with shame, but with honesty. Then, one by one, she would loosen them, because every time you betray your true self, another string appears, and every time you return to truth, one string falls away.